You're listening to Pombo and Peter's Picks, the home of your favorite sports betting podcast. Presented by The Daily Goat.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Pombo and Peter's Picks. I'm Jason Pombo with Peter Alves. How are we doing today, Peter?
Pretty good. Week 5 in the books, and Red Sox are on a big high.
Yeah,
Screw you, Rays.
It was absolutely insane in terms of the Red Sox defeating the Tampa Bay Rays in the ALDS to advance to the ALCS. So we'll talk about that when we break down our baseball segment after our recap of football picks. Our recap of our football picks from last week, and just a couple other NFL topics that we're going to hit on before we talk some baseball. So be sure to stay tuned to that for all the baseball fans out there. All right, Peter. So let's get right into it. So last week I went 2-2-1. So it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't as good as the week before, in which I had my best week. But in terms of wins, I had the under for the 49ers Cardinals, under 49.5. That game clearly hit the under.
Yeah, I think it was like 27.
Yeah, exactly. That was a good pick for me. I had the Titans minus 4.5. Over the Jaguars, that was right. My push was the Packers minus 3. They only won by 3 over
You're
the
so
Cincinnati
lucky.
Bengals. I know. I could have been either. We'll tell you what, the Packers were up a lot early. Then Cincinnati should have won. And then the whole kicker fiasco, which we'll talk about later. And it all resulted in a push. And then my other loss was the Chiefs minus 2.5. They got annihilated by the Bills. And then my final loss was the over for the Panthers-Eagles at 44.5. That game hit the under. Sam Darnold and company let me down.
It's true. I went 2-3 also. We won on the Bucks minus 10. They destroyed the Patriots and they destroyed the Dolphins, Jacoby Brissett, and the Chargers minus 1.5. And ripped TJ Albin. And then the loss, the Panthers minus 3.5. That's the last time I'm going to be on the Panthers. Sam Darnold let me down, and he turned into the Jets pumpkin. Broncos plus 1. The Steelers actually won a game. And their offense actually looked confident. That's good.
Yep.
And Patriots minus 8.5. In hindsight, that was right, but after the 4 starters went down, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, so me and Peter, we went with the survivor pick for the Patriots last week. So as the week progressed and we saw that the Patriots were going to be missing 4 offensive linemen, Jalen Mills, their second best cornerback, we kind of were just Peter was like,
well, I almost texted because I have the Bucks in my back pocket, and obviously they're facing Dolphins. I was almost going to text Matt. I was going to be changing it, but
yeah, you thought about it, but at the end of the day, you decided to stay true to the guns. Now it was an ugly win, but they won. They didn't cover, but they won, and we survived another week.
Oh, so that was a terrible game, though.
That was terrible, but we survived, Peter. That's the whole goal of this. So we survived to week 6. We'll give our survivor picks at the end of the show. So be sure to keep on listening for that. Okay, so let's talk about some of last week's games. So I think the most notable game was the Bills-Chiefs. So at Arrowhead, Chiefs were 2.5-point favorites. The Chiefs started off slow, and Peter's been on record saying that he doesn't believe the Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. And Peter, after the Chiefs got absolutely annihilated by the Bills, losing 38-20, that pick looks better and better for you. Josh Allen was 15 of 26, 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a quarterback rating of 139.1 and a QBR of 91.6. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, he was 33 of 54 for 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks, with a quarterback rating of 70.9 and a QBR of 48.4. So I think the main takeaway of the game is just how bad this Chiefs defense is.
Yeah, no, it's true. I've been saying it for weeks. That's going to do them in, and their defense is terrible. Tyrann Mathieu is done with everybody's crap. If you see any meme, he's just holding his head, and he's like, can't do it. But I mean, this is the first week that I thought that the offense was affected by the defense, because I feel like that Mahomes had to have home run shots every single play, even though Tyreek, anybody. And I feel like they're just going for the long ball, and they're getting rid of the easy passes down the middle and stuff. But I don't know. No excuses for the Chiefs, but I think that Patrick Mahomes is a little bit hurt. I don't know. He just looks not right. And that team is out of sorts. And through 5 weeks, if you said that you could predict the Chiefs in last place, you would be absolutely lying to yourself.
Exactly. The only way you would say that is Mahomes got hurt or something like that.
I think he is hurt a little bit, but I don't know.
But like not playing hurt.
No, right. Yeah.
So I equate a lot of it to the Chiefs defense. So after 5 weeks, they're allowing 437.4 yards per game. That ranks 31st in the NFL. They allow 296.4 pass yards per game. That's 29th in the NFL. They allow 32.6 points per game. That's last in the NFL. They average 7.1 yards a play. That's last in the NFL. In terms of EPA per play, last in the NFL. Dropback EPA, 29th in the NFL. In terms of DVOA, last in the NFL at 29.3%. I just think this defense is really bad. And I think the defensive coordinator down there, Spagnuolo, he could be getting the axe. Like, I totally don't rule that out of the equation whatsoever. And I think the secondary is just the worst part of it. Josh Allen was beating them over the top in a multitude of different ways. So I think this Chiefs defense is in real trouble. I don't really equate it too much on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. Granted, they haven't necessarily been at the level that we've seen the last couple of years, but I feel like they've been good enough to win some games. This past week against the Bills, that defense didn't give them a chance. Simply, they just had no shot of winning that with that defense being that bad.
Mahomes looks bad though. He already has 6 interceptions on the year. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with that whole team.
You could be onto something. Maybe he's a little banged up, but I also think it's very important to not. So again, just to switch gears here, the Buffalo Bills. I think that defense is absolutely legit.
Oh yeah, top 5 defense, top 5 offense. I think they're the clear favorite. I know they're not the clear favorites in Vegas because I think the Bucs are still ahead of them, but I think they're the clear favorite for the Super Bowl this year. So I think the Bucs, like the Chiefs, their defense, their secondary is going to do them in too.
When it comes to the Buffalo Bills, I know a lot of people want to talk about Josh Allen this, Josh Allen that, but the reality of things is this team is where they are because of that defense. Look, in terms of defensive stats, they're first in yards per game. They're only allowing 251.8 yards a game. Second in pass yards per game, 173.4, which is crazy to me. Third in rush yards a game at 78.4. They only allow 12.8 points per game, which is first in the NFL. They're first in takeaways. They've had 15 takeaways in 5 games. That's 3 takeaways a game. In the first in DVOA at minus 48.4%, which is an unreal number. So you look at this defense, I think they've been awesome. They're finally, last year they were, I don't want to call them elite or anything, but they showed some sort of rise during some games, but they were inconsistent. And this year they seem to put it all together. This defense is going to win them games, and they have absolutely put the Bills in the position they are in today. So do you believe they're the best team in the NFL?
Maybe in the AFC. Maybe the Bucs have like a run for their money, but yeah, I think they're the clear favorite, at least for the AFC. So yeah.
If this defense can continue to play like they're playing, it's going to be tough for them to get stopped. That's the reality of things. Their defense is at another level, and that's not taking away what Josh Allen is doing offensively. But watching Josh Allen last year and this year, there is evidently a small regression. I think that's obvious to say.
But he had to have a regression from last year.
Yeah,
There's no way you're the second best quarterback.
He isn't putting up the numbers that he I don't think he's personally, I don't believe he's an MVP candidate at the moment. Like he was last year for the entire season. I don't think he's in that echelon with Brady, Kyler Murray, Stafford, and company. I don't think he's been that through the first 5 games. I think a lot of their games have been decided by that fantastic defense. Again, just crazy to think like 12 or averaging 12 points a game. Like,
I know
that's crazy to even think
about.
It's
probably skewed a little bit because of the Houston game where they didn't allow.
Yeah, they won 40. But... Yeah, they won that game 40-0. But the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, that is not an easy place to play. That is arguably the hardest place to play in the NFL. Not to mention the pouring rain, the delay they had to wait an hour and a half. So I don't know. And they played some decent offenses. Granted, you can't say much about Houston, but Taylor Heineke can sling the ball a little bit. That's a pretty good offense. So, I don't know. Miami, it's tough to really judge because, and Pittsburgh, Roethlisberger, week 1. Granted, they lost that game, but Roethlisberger hasn't been fantastic. So we'll see. And they have arguably the easiest schedule left in the NFL. Have you seen
really?
who they have left?
No, but I know they have the Patriots twice, which helps.
Yep, they have the Patriots twice. They have at Tennessee, which should be a challenging game. They're at Tampa, but I mean, other than that, they're looking pretty good. They still have to play Miami. Again, they have to play Jacksonville. They got to play the Jets twice. They got to play the Falcons. They got to play the Colts, the Saints.
So what you're saying is they're locked to win the AFC East, and they're probably locked to win the number 1 seed, unless the Chargers have something to say about it, and then
unless something trips them up and they kind of fall back down to earth. I don't foresee that right now, but crazy things have happened. Now, speaking of the Chargers that you just mentioned, Chargers-Browns. So this was a game a lot of people had their eye on, and people were just kind of waiting to see if Justin Herbert would live up to another challenge, and he absolutely did. Chargers beat the Browns 47-42, led by Justin Herbert. He was 26 of 43 for 398 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 85 and a quarterback rating of 122. Baker Mayfield, on the other hand, he played well, but he got outdueled by Justin Herbert. He was 23 of 32 for 305 yards, and he threw 2 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 53.2 and a quarterback rating of 122.5. In terms of the Chargers skill position players, Mike Williams has been awesome this year. He had 8 catches for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 targets. Mike Williams, you could argue, has been a better receiver than Keenan Allen this year.
In fantasy, I'm pretty sure he's like wide receiver 5 in the whole entire league.
He's been awesome. I mean, now their stats are comparable, Williams and Keenan Allen, but to me, it just feels like that chemistry between Herbert and Williams is only growing. So what do you think of that game? I know you were high on the Chargers the last couple of weeks, and they put their money where their mouth is, and big W for them.
Yeah, right. When obviously the defenses on both sides couldn't stop a lick, but I mean, when the Chargers needed to stop that when the Chargers needed to stop that defense in the fourth quarter and needed to stop Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they did so. Derwin James played pretty well, and I don't care if there's a recency bias, but I think the Chargers are going to win the AFC West. I think the Chargers are going to win the AFC. They might even win the Super Bowl, and I think I got to back off on Kyler Murray MVP. I think Justin Herbert is going to win MVP.
Ooh, so Peter is all.
And then Brandon Staley, obviously, if everything goes right, he's going to win Coach of the Year.
You made some powerful statements there. I'm not willing to go that far yet on any of them. The one thing I will go far on is the play of Justin Herbert, which is as legit as it gets. He's the best young quarterback in the NFL, and it hasn't even just been these last couple games. So his last 9 games, he's 8-1, right? So this dates back to last year, the last 4 games of last year and the first 5 games of this year. He's 8-1. He's thrown 21 touchdown passes to only 4 interceptions. He has a completion percentage of 69.16%, and his quarterback rating is 107.4. So he's winning games. He's putting the team on his shoulders, and it's clearly notable. I'll take Herbert over Joe Burrow. I'll take Burrow over any young quarterback in this league. He already showed in this last couple of weeks that he has the talent to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not saying he's as good as Patrick Mahomes, but is the gap as big as people think? And I don't think it's that crazy. I really don't.
If the Chargers can beat the Chiefs, Browns, and then Ravens 3 weeks in a row, I think they're going to coast until the Bills.
And this is the Chargers we're talking about, a team that are notorious for choking in big spots, notorious for blowing fourth quarter leads, stupid coaching decisions, stupid interceptions, whatever it may be.
Well, I think Brandon Staley is helping them because he's an aggressive coach. He goes for on 4th down. Their offense is electric. They move up and down the field. I think that last year, the best thing that they ever did was lose to the Patriots 45-0.
So, which is crazy because you just mentioned that. So the last 9 games of Herbert's career have been right after that game. So immediately after that 45-0 loss, Herbert's been 8-1.
Because if you're the Chargers, you're like, all right, we're firing Anthony Lynn. He's not the answer. I think that's the game that they ultimately
decided to move on from Lynn. So Anthony Lynn, he was expected to go last year, and I wasn't surprised that he was. I think Staley's been a good hire. I know a lot of people were just like, wow, you hired Brandon Staley, really? Like, you got to remember here with Brandon Staley, he was a defensive coordinator down for the Rams. He wasn't an offensive guy like Eric Bieniemy or Brian Dable or Nick Sirianni, one of those guys. He came from the defensive side of the ball. which is unique in today's NFL because a lot of offensive coaches seem to be getting the nod when it comes to head coaching hires. But Staley's been awesome. And you just can't argue what he's done the last couple weeks. I think he's legit, and I think Herbert's legit. As we just talked about, Herbert, to me, this is a different sport. But could you make the argument that Justin Herbert is turning into like the Luka Doncic of the NFL in terms of young player, immense talent, already top 5 quarterback in the game? And like everyone knows how good he is now, and they can't imagine how he's going to be in the future.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I think that's just a comp that I come up with. It's a different sport, clearly, but Herbert's got all the tools you want. He's accurate, big size, smart, athletic. He's phenomenal, and he is going to be trouble for the league in terms of game planning against him for a long, long time. And if I'm Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I get ready to battle against Herbert and the Chargers every year for the next decade.
Right.
It's not going to be
it's going to be fun. NFL's in good hands.
Absolutely. All right, Peter, last but not least, another great game this past week was the Monday night game. Ravens-Colts. Ravens ended up coming back to defeat the Colts. They won 31-25. I know a lot of people might not have watched it because they were watching the Red Sox game, but the Colts started off the game really hot. They were up, I believe, 22-6 before the Ravens came back really quick. Lamar Jackson had one of his best games of his NFL career. He was 37 of 43, 442 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 71.6 and a quarterback rating of 140.5. Jackson also contributed 62 yards rushing. The connection he had with Mark Andrews and Marquise Hollywood Brown was phenomenal. They had 20 combined receptions. The Colts, they fall to 1-4. Very tough luck for Carson Wentz, who had his best game as a member of the Colts. He was 25 of 35 for 402 yards and 2 touchdowns. And my guy, Michael Pittman, finally got in the end zone for his first touchdown of the season. And it's just crazy because you look at this Baltimore Ravens team, week 1 against the Vegas Raiders, it looked like they were going to be down out for the count. And then you talk about a couple weeks later against the Kansas City Chiefs, they looked unlikely to win that game, but here they are, 4-1. They have a big game this week against the Chargers, and Lamar Jackson's arguably playing the best football of his career.
Yep, all of their wins are really, really close. Even the one versus the Lions, but I think the Ravens are in good shape. I think Lamar maybe not is developing a passer that we think the general quarterback should be, but I think he's becoming more comfortable passing the ball, and obviously he can do whatever he wants running the ball. But I still don't trust this Ravens team. I think they're still one-dimensional. I think that their running back situation is a stupid mess. I don't know. And then the Colts. I'm coming off of the Titans. I think the Colts aren't dead yet. Even though they're 1-4.
Colts aren't dead?
No, they're not dead. Because they're facing the Texans, and they're going to be 2-4, I think. But I don't think they're dead. I think that division's way too bad.
That division has been disappointing. A lot of people were high on the Titans. A lot of people were high on the Colts. Some people were even high on the Jaguars, like Noah Byrne of Rough in the Basket. He's been high on the Jaguars, and it hasn't come to fruition yet. Now, could that turn around? I don't know. With Urban Meyer at the helm, who knows? But you talked about a couple different points there. In terms of the Baltimore Raven running backs, I think that is a real issue. They had 11 carries between Latavius Murray, Tyson Williams, and Devonta Freeman. They only had 24 yards rushing. So again, that's less than 2 yards a carry. They were not able to generate anything running the ball. Granted, they were down in this game 22-6, so they really weren't able to get that running game going because they had to pass the ball to catch up a little bit. In terms of the Colts, look, I think they're disappointing as it currently stands. Carson Wentz did have his best game. He wasn't at fault for the loss, but his record over the last 17 games, Peter, he's 4-12-1 in his last 17 games.
Gross.
4-12-1, which is crazy because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago when he was likely going to win the MVP award and likely.
He was going to win that MVP.
You know what I mean? And granted, the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year with Nick Foles anyway, but that was supposed to be Carson Wentz. The Eagles were supposed to start a dynasty with Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson. That was supposed to be it. And Doug Peterson doesn't have a job, and Carson Wentz is, like I just said, 4-12-1 in his last 17 starts. And again, he didn't turn the ball over this game. He was good, but they lost. And they were up 22-6. So he does deserve some fault. It's just That's how it is. And there really isn't too many excuses for Carson Wentz anymore. He has his head coach in Frank Reich. Frank Reich believes in him more than anybody in the NFL. He has a decent team around him, good skill position players, an adequate defense. The AFC South sucks, as you just said. There really isn't anything to complain about if you're Carson Wentz. So it's put up or shut up time for the Colts and Carson Wentz's career, in my opinion.
Did you hear the reports that teams are sniffing around on the Ravens running backs though? Like I don't get it. 'Cause they're all terrible. They're all washed up. All
they also have
journeyman.
Le'Veon Bell on the practice squad.
Yeah, right.
But I think of that group, Latavius Murray probably has the best chance to and break out. When I say break out, I mean be the most productive back.
For sure,
Tyson
yeah.
Williams, he was supposed to be a fourth stringer before the season started.
I don't get it. He's in the doghouse.
And Devonta Freeman, I mean, 5 years ago, Devonta Freeman was election down in Atlanta. But right now, it's just, they don't seem to. I think this is eventually going to be the Latavius Murray show. But it hasn't been yet. And if this Ravens run game isn't going to live up to the expectations, that's going to put some more pressure on Lamar Jackson to make these good throws. And to this point, he's delivered. He's came up in the clutch in the fourth quarter in 3 games this year. So Lamar Jackson is somebody that I'm going to call inconsistent on. I believe in him 1 week, and then the next week I'm like, I don't know if I do. But he showed me a lot these last 5 weeks. His accuracy has improved, and his ability, that clutch gene in the fourth quarter, has something going too.
I wonder if he's playing better through 5 weeks than he was playing better in the MVP season that he had. I have no idea. Yeah, it's got to be pretty close. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be close. I don't have that exact stats in front of me, but I'm sure it's close. He's not turning the ball over that much in terms of throwing interceptions the last couple weeks.
No, and it seems like he's running the ball 100 yards every time.
And he's definitely more accurate as a passer than he was a couple years ago. Like that's not even debatable in my mind. And it's not like he's got these skill position players like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill to work with. Like Mark Andrews is the fine tight end, good player. Marquise Hollywood Brown, I don't think he's a true number 1 receiver. Sammy Watkins is a couple years past his prime. And then everything else is just a bunch of question marks. I like James Prochet.
He's getting Bateman back this week, I think.
Yeah, they're getting Rashad Bateman back, which is huge for that offense, which I think is going to be huge for that offense. Again, we haven't really seen Bateman too much. So Brandon Carr of Roughing the Basket is huge on him. So we'll see how that shakes out.
To be fair, I think all the rookie wide receivers are doing real well.
They are.
All of them.
They really are. I mean, the only one that you could kind of say is not. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. How do you think Elijah Moore's doing? He's doing okay.
Yeah, he's all right. He's kind of capped because of the Jets, but
yeah, but like Jamar Chase, you're talking about, he's been great.
And Waddle's good, and
Devonta Smith, of course. I think Devonta Smith, in my opinion, he's been fantastic. I mean,
Jamar Chase is getting all the highlights. He's pretty good.
Yeah, Jamar Chase is getting all the highlights right now because you got Joe Burrow down in Cincinnati, and they're playing some really well offense. But I think Devonta Smith has been awesome. I think his route running, his speed, his quickness, he's been great. And a lot of people gave Devonta Smith crap for his size and everything else. Like I remember I got a bunch of crap for drafting him in fantasy in a couple of leagues, but I think the kid's a player. All right, Peter, let's transition to some other NFL topics. So one thing that we saw developing at the end of last week finally came full circle this past Monday. So John Gruden resigned from being the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So for those of you that missed the story, I think it was last Thursday or last Friday, an article came out in the New York Times that's centered around an email that John Gruden sent to the ex-president and general manager of the Washington football team.
Bruce Allen.
Bruce Allen, thank you. And that email contained an email that said some things about DeMaurice Smith, the NFLPA president. So he caught a lot of, there was a lot of criticism towards Gruden for that, rightfully so, because the comment clearly was bad. No two ways about it. But Gruden coached the game on Sunday, and a lot of people thought that he apologized and that they would just kind of move on. It was just a one-time thing. But Monday night, the New York Times released another article, and it contained numerous emails that John Gruden sent over the last 10 years that contained a lot of other things they were coming at a plethora of different people, different groups of people. And the reality was John Gruden resigned. So he is no longer the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So big picture thing here, Peter. Once that second New York Times article was released, were you surprised Gruden resigned, or did you expect
No,
it?
because he was going to get fired either way. I think that was the right move by Gruden because I think the Raiders had to do something for the NFL's sake. And at the end of the day, you can't say that, especially nowadays, you can't do that. But it's
No,
a slippery
yeah.
slope because he wasn't even a part of an NFL team back then.
Yep.
But
So
I mean, at
yeah.
the end of the day, you can't say that.
No, you can't say that. You can't. That's not okay at all. In terms of how the NFL and New York Times receive those emails, so this
Oh, hey,
actually
nothing's ever safe on the internet.
that too, but this actually stemmed from the investigation from the Washington football team. So Bruce Allen again was the president of the Washington football team. John Gruden worked for ESPN as a Monday Night Football color commentator at the time. So he was emailing Bruce Allen, and they went over those emails, and that's how they got him. Now, the NFL clearly...
Is that when Jay Gruden was there?
I believe it was.
That's probably why he was emailing back and forth.
Yeah, I believe it was. Again, don't quote me on that, but I believe it was. So you look at John Gruden, I think he was overrated as a head coach. That's just my opinion. But football aside, you just can't say that kind of thing. And especially when it comes down to this investigation where the Washington football team were getting investigated. I think it was over 65,000 emails.
Yeah, it's a ton of them. There's probably going to be more names to be taken out.
I'm sure. And now the question is, will the NFL leak them or release them to the media? Now, it was clear that John Gruden was the first person to really take the fall here. And Bruce Allen, I'm sure, won't be allowed to be in an NFL front office again. Let's look at the Raiders franchise for a second here. I think a lot has been made of John Gruden's relationship with Derek Carr and Mike Mayock. Now, I think, again, this is just my takeaway here. I think Derek Carr's days in Vegas are now numbered without John Gruden.
Yeah, it's either going to go two ways. Derek Carr's either going to have to get traded, or he's going to obviously walk away for another team, or they're going to rally around, hey, the coach got released, and they're going to light the world on fire. There's going to be no in between. They're either going to go 0-, whatever it is, 0-11 down the stretch, or they're going to be a comfortable team and not play for their coach, but I mean, set the world that they're still a football team.
Yeah, so now, like, as you mentioned, play for their coach. They have a new head coach. He was their assistant coach and special teams coordinator. He comes from a special teams background. He actually was with Gruden down in Tampa Bay when they won that first Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, I believe.
He's out of the Ring of Honor over there, too.
Yep, and now John Gruden is out of the Ring of Honor. So the Raiders' head coach now is Rick Bisaccia. So Bisaccia, again, he's an unknown name for some, but he's well-respected in NFL circles. So, again, we'll see if he's going to be able to rally the troops, because I'm sure in Vegas they have some mixed emotions on it, because, like, I'm sure there are people that are disgusted by what John Gruden did, hurt, like, surprised, whatever it may be. I'm sure there's a whirlwind of emotions going on, especially because Gruden coached the game on Sunday. So, again, I didn't love this Raiders team going into the season, and I think it's probably a free fall is likely in order. So John Gruden is now out in Vegas. All right, Peter, let's talk about some NFL kickers. So you provided me with the stat, and it's absolutely insane. In week 5, kickers, so this is according to ESPN here. In week 5, kickers missed 12 extra points, which tied an NFL record. They also missed 12 field goals on the day, which is crazy. It's the first week to have at least 10 missed field goals and at least 10 missed extra points since they moved back from the 2-yard line to the 15-yard line in 2015. The 12 missed PAT attempts ties a record set in 2016. So what do you make of this kicker debacle?
They're just all mental midgets. They're all just strutting along. They do what they want. I mean, I was watching the Patriot game with TJ, and then like every single, no matter if it was Falk, Fairbear, like they just shanked extra points out of the yin yang. And like obviously the Green Bay and then Bengals game, they couldn't hit a field goal in overtime to win their game at all. And then Evan McPherson like got Did you see that? He thought that it went in, and then obviously
Yeah.
it didn't, and then he got like raised off the field.
Yeah, and I think the kicking situation, I wouldn't call it like a total L in the NFL.
No, because
They,
that's the best thing that they ever did. Move back the field goal.
yeah, no,
Move
I
back the
like
extra
it.
point.
I like it because then it brings a different strategy into place. Like, do you go for two at the 2 yard line, or do you just take the whatever it is, a 35 yard
Because it's not a guarantee anymore.
extra point. So like it's not. And some kickers are nails, Justin Tucker, chief among them. But there's other ones that are questionable in terms of their reliability. Now, there was some games with a lot of rain this weekend, a lot of wind. So could that have been a factor? Maybe. But in the Patriots-Texans game, for example, that game's in a dome.
Right.
Like there really isn't many excuses there. And some of those missed field goals were from over 50 yards, which isn't a gimme, and it's never been a gimme in the NFL. But some of them were in like the 30s, and it's like, bro. Like, how about the Packers-Bengals game? Like
Right.
Mason
It's
Crosby.
every time.
Mason Crosby looked like he was going to get cut.
Crosby and McPherson, I'm pretty sure, missed like 6 field goals by themselves.
Like that, it was just crazy. And do I think next week's probably going to be like that? No, I don't imagine so.
No,
But
even
who
out.
knows?
But like, they're just mental midgets. I don't get how you can get paid all that money, millions of dollars just to kick, and you can't even kick a 35-yard field goal.
You know, I don't think it's easy. Like, I really don't.
I know
'cause,
it's
like,
all pressure, and probably like the end of the game, you're probably like, shit, like I don't
But,
want to
like,
let the
when
team
you're
down,
in
and
the
like
NFL,
pressures and like
yeah,
snaps.
when you're in the NFL, anything under 40 should be automatic, in my opinion.
Yep.
Even under 45, I mean, like, then weather aside, but whatever. If it's under 40 in any condition, that should be in. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that hasn't been the case in week 5. So we'll see if that changes. See, this is why Noah of Roughing the Basket needs to get some kickers on at Roughing the Basket podcast. He's been talking
Josh
about it for months.
Lambo, Cody Parkey.
He's been talking about it for months. He's been trying to land a kicker. So, and I think that would be a fascinating interview conducted by Noah about, like, he's just fascinated from the whole kicker standpoint.
For sure.
And I think that'd be so cool. All right,
We
Peter.
get a lot of love Roughing the Basket. Cars.
Yeah,
Car
I
one
feel like I
time.
keep
Shout
talking
out
about
Noah
Roughing the
twice.
Basket, huh?
I know.
Maybe we'll get a little thing to talk about Carr and Noah at the end of the show. So be sure to continue listening to hear what the announcement is. I think it's notable. So we'll talk about that at the end. All right, last
Yeah, you
topic.
guys are getting fired.
Not true. Don't worry, Carr. Don't worry, Noah. Roughing the Basket stays true to our heart. All right, Peter. So let's talk one last topic in the NFL. Let's talk about my Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson and company. They came up short last Thursday night against the Los Angeles Rams. And at the end of the day, it ended up being more than just one loss. So Russell Wilson left the game with a thumb injury, which seemed at the time like he was still on the sideline, like maybe it was just nothing going to be crazy. But according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the Seahawks are bracing for Wilson to miss at least the next month to possibly 6 to 8 weeks with the ruptured middle finger tendon that likely requires surgery, which he did receive the surgery. So with Seattle losing Russell Wilson, Geno Smith is at the helm. So Seattle, right? You look at this team overall, they have no first-round pick in 2022. They have Russell Wilson, who's flirted with the idea of forcing a trade. A struggling defense, and the next 6 opponents for them are at Pittsburgh, home against the Saints, home against the Jaguars, at Green Bay, home against the Cardinals, and at the Washington football team. So you look at that, I think you're lucky if you go 3-3 with Geno Smith. So what do you make of the Seattle Seahawks? I know you weren't high on them.
Listen,
before,
who is
you
right?
think they're just dead.
Injury aside,
It doesn't count.
who is right?
It doesn't count.
Under 10 wins, baby. Hard under. Listen, not gonna dance on Russell Wilson's grave because like don't wish upon injury for anybody. But I don't know. I feel like the Seahawks are in trouble. The Seahawks are dead, especially when you have the Cardinals and Rams in that same division. And then the 49ers, they can do with whatever they want. I think that Geno Smith, although that I'm going to rag on him till Russell Wilson gets back, I think they're going to beat the Steelers. I think that they're not as bad as people think. I think Pete Carroll is going to coach them to some, maybe a mediocrity at best. I don't think they're going to be a laughing stock.
You look at it, right? And Pete Carroll is one of the most underrated head coaches, in my opinion. I know he gets clowned for the didn't run the ball in the Super Bowl, and we all know, ha ha ha, Pete Carroll, like, you suck, yada yada yada. But Pete Carroll, I mean, he has coached before Russell Wilson. So, like, let's not pretend that he's just a creation of Russell Wilson, because he's not. Because prior to, all right, so when he got to Seattle before Russell Wilson, he still did fare with a decent amount of success. So Russell Wilson got there in 2012, right? Pete Carroll's record before 2012 in Seattle, I can read it right off to you. 2011, he was 7-9. I'm sorry, in 2010, he was 7-9, but they won the division that year, correct?
Yep.
Wasn't that the year they won and then the Marshawn Lynch beast mode game?
Yep.
The year before that, they also went 7-9, but like they're competitive. They're not going to roll over and go 4-12. Of Pete Carroll's entire NFL coaching career, right? He's only received less than 7 wins once, and that was in 1994. When he was with the head coach of the Jets, when he won 6 games. I mean, you look at his career, he's always at least mediocrity. And I think during this stretch with Russell Wilson, he's not going to go 5-1 or 4-2, but he'll go 3-3, 2-4, and at least give them an opportunity to do something when Russell Wilson returns.
Yeah, they could make 7 wins. Especially if Wilson comes back.
Yeah, and he's going to come back. So, like, let's say Russell Wilson comes back week 12, right? Just for the sake of argument. And let's say they go 2-4 now, right? So then they'll be what? They'll have 5 wins. And I think they win probably. I still think they can win 7 or 8 games.
Because they have the Bears later. They have the Lions later.
I still think they can. And you don't know. You don't necessarily know how things are going to go with Russell Wilson's finger. Maybe he'll recover quicker, or maybe it'll take longer. Maybe he'll be back in 4 weeks. Maybe
I want to see Geno Smith, though, light it up. And then all the Jets fans are like, come on, seriously.
Well, say what you want about Geno Smith, but he played well against the Rams.
Listen, if Geno Smith is bad,
99-yard touchdown drive.
We're calling him Geno Picks.
Geno Picks. Let's do it. I mean, you're picking him this week?
Oh, yeah. Not on the picks, but I think
they win.
Yeah, I think they're going to beat the Steelers.
I wouldn't rule it out. I think Pete Carroll, he's a good coach. Like, this isn't Anthony Lynn or...
No.
This is
going to be
Carroll.
confident.
And this is, again, the defense is flawed for sure, but they still have enough position players that should be good enough to take a team off guard, and you never know. I don't think they're going 0-6. If they are, then
they better not go 0-6. They're facing the
wrong.
Jaguars.
In terms of NFL picks, we're going to give those at the end of the show for week 6. So be sure to keep on listening. We'll also give our highly anticipated survivor pick, which is very, very...
It's tough this week when you don't have the Rams.
Peter's been sweating since 10 a.m. this morning. Think about who he's going to pick.
Listen, it's true. Listen, you've lasted 6 weeks. You want to go through the end, but the schedule this week is pretty bad.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to baseball, right? Boston Red Sox. Who would have ever guessed the lonely Boston Red Sox that barely made a wild card berth, defeated Garrett Cole and the Yankees? Check. Defeated the Tampa Bay Rays in the ALDS in 4 games, kicking the crap out of them. So let's start off with them. Alex Cora, in my opinion, deserves all the credit in the world. As a manager now in the playoffs, his record is 15-4, while Kevin Cash, who's been eliminated, falls to 15-15. So Cora has been nails in the playoffs. What is your takeaway from the series and the Red Sox as a whole?
Listen, I should have seen this coming. The Rays have no starting pitching at all. And even though that they have an up-and-coming lineup with Juan Franco and Reyes Arena, I think 1A, 1B rookie of the year, we should have seen this coming, to be honest with you. Even though the Red Sox don't have great starting pitching either, I think they can match whenever they want. They can score 6-7 runs a game. And yeah, I think we should have seen this coming.
So last week when we talked about it, you thought Tampa was going to win.
Yeah, I thought the Red Sox were going to win 1 game.
I said Tampa in 5, but I said I could see the Red Sox win the series. I just don't believe in Tampa in the playoffs. I ever since that moment in the World Series, I just have some doubt. Despite the fact that the Rays won 100 games and they were arguably the best team in the American League, they still had their flaws. And I think I trusted Alex Cora in making the right decisions to get them in the best possible position to succeed. And it wasn't like they just squeaked it out against the Rays. Like, no, they won convincingly in my mind. This wasn't a fluke series win. Like, they overcame adversity, most notably in game 2, in my opinion. Like, if you want to look at it, Peter, they lost game 1, right? And it was ugly. They weren't able to get things going. In game 2, they fell behind early with Chris Sale on the mound. Like, they fell down early. And and for a second, it looked like the Red Sox were going to get swept. And they completely changed the script.
Right. If you asked anybody if Chris Sale pitched 1 inning in the whole series and the Red Sox still won, you would laugh at him right in your face.
Exactly. And to me, the Red Sox won from their pitching anyway. Nate Eovaldi was awesome. Erod in game 4 was awesome. And it comes to the bullpen, I think Tanner Howick, Garrett Whitlock, those two, and Nick Pivetta. Of course, and Nick Pivetta. The 3 of them have been absolutely phenomenal. I'm sure they've had their bumps, but they've been phenomenal in the postseason. Really isn't much to complain about. Offensively, it was great to see JD Martinez and Xander Bogaerts heat up a little bit. You saw some other guys contribute. Kyle Schwarber as well, which has proved to be one of the best deadline acquisitions in the MLB. But my overall takeaway from this
Don't
series...
Don't forget Kike Hernandez. He's better than David Ortiz.
Kike Hernandez. Yes. Was he 4 for 5 in game 4?
Yeah, he's got like 9 hits, I think.
Yeah, I think he had... Yeah, I think 9 hits.
Yeah.
I think it was 9 hits in the last 4 games. So he's been great for sure. Kike Hernandez, who talked about it post-game, how he's always believed in this team when he signed there in spring training. He saw the energy and atmosphere, especially what Alex Cora was able to bring, and he immediately fell in love with the culture here, and the rest is history. So I keep bringing it back to Alex Cora, and I'm going to bring it back a step further here. I think Alex Cora is the most impactful manager in baseball, and I really don't think it's close.
Oh, for sure. So, he gets Kike to do whatever he wants. He does Erod. He does Vasquez.
He gets the most out of its players. Like, you see, granted, the personnel in the roster was completely different, but last year's team compared to
you can't do that though, because I think Ron Renicky, I think he just got thrown into the fire.
That's fine. I agree with you. Renicky ended up going 24 and 36, but you saw guys regress. JD Martinez regressed. Xander Bogaerts. He didn't necessarily regress, but Benintendi was banged up the entire year. The Red Sox pitching was never able to get going. Like, it was a COVID year, don't get me wrong, but the energy completely changed when Alex Cora was there in spring training. And all the players say it. And tell you what, if anybody else is the Red Sox manager this season, they don't win 92 games. They're hovering around the mid-80s. I truthfully believe that. Alex Cora has put them in this position. Now, don't get me wrong, Chaim Bloom deserves all the credit in the world because he did phenomenal moves in season as well as in the off season. Like, I think a guy like Hunter Renfroe, I think that ended up being a slam dunk.
I think he's overrated.
Why do you think he's overrated?
I think that he in the field anyway, I think he's a little too throw happy.
I mean, what, he hit 30 home runs this year? Like,
bat aside, but I don't know. I think he's a liability.
And I tell you what, he is the least you have to worry about defensively when you have guys like Bobby Dahlbeck out there and Xander Bogaerts, who played average shortstop, and Bobby Dahlbeck's been arguably the worst first baseman in the MLB. Vasquez hasn't been that good in terms of defensively as a catcher either. So yeah, I get what you're saying with Renfroe, but I think Renfroe was a great pickup. Pivetta, it's looking like a home run, better by the day. How about the acquisition of Garrett Whitlock, who was literally just picked off the trash heap from the Yankees?
Oh, because the Yankees are stupid.
Like, seriously.
Rule 5, thank you.
Like, exactly. Just absolutely perfect. He's been awesome. We've seen some other guys that have really improved. Like you just talked about, Kike Hernandez. That's another great one that you just talked about. How about in season a guy like Jose Iglesias? Granted, he can't be on the playoff roster or anything like that, but Jose Iglesias played really well down the stretch. And Kyle Schwarber, how about Robles? Granted, he didn't have that best performance in game 3, but you look at that. What do you have? 17 and a third scoreless innings.
Yeah.
Cora used him in high leverage situations. So Bloom, Cora, I mean, to the moon. They were phenomenal, and they got the Red Sox to where they were. They're early on their schedule. I don't think the Red Sox anticipated to be in this position until at the earliest next year. I think they were hoping to win at least like 83, 85 games and go from there. But they've been awesome. So now they have a date with the Houston Astros. The Astros defeated the Chicago White Sox in 4 games. Down goes Tony La Russa. So here we go again. Red Sox, Astros, deja vu. So many different storylines. Alex Cora, after being suspended for the entire 2020 season, is going to a playoff series against the Houston Astros organization. The reason why he was suspended for the year. Now, the Astros, they have a lot to prove Like you just talked about before we started recording, Peter, was it 5 consecutive ALCS appearances?
Yep.
Crazy. Houston's playing some really good baseball. I consider them the most underrated team in baseball right now. I picked them to go to the World Series.
They're the
when
World
playoffs
Series
started.
favorites right now.
Yeah, and they should be. But going into the playoffs, it felt like no one was really buzzing about them. I think a lot of people were high on Tampa Bay, and a lot of people like the young talent in Chicago. Now, neither have come to fruition here. So when you look at the Red Sox Astros, what are you excited about?
I'm excited for the starters for the Astros versus the hitters on the Red Sox. I think that they obviously have better pitching than the Rays do. They have Greinke, McCullers, and Valdez. But I think the real test is going to be the Houston bullpen versus the Red Sox bullpen. Because I think the offenses even out, and I think they have a slight edge, the Astros do, on the starters. And then I think, obviously, the Red Sox bullpen is terrible. Even though you said Pavetta and how.
Well, I think they were better in this series.
Right.
But
just overall, they have no names. And
yeah.
Matt Barnes, where is he? He's nowhere to be found. But I mean, I don't know.
Don't count him out yet. But no, I know what you're saying. It's the Astros are a more complete and more talented team than the Red Sox. I think that's clear. So tell you what, I'm going to pick the Astros in 6 here. I think overall they're just more talented. And it's unfortunate for me to, after just talking so glowingly about the Red Sox, but I think they're still limited in terms of their talent. Chris Sale isn't right. Eduardo Rodriguez, despite that Game 4 performance, you still don't know what you're going to get from him. Nate Eovaldi, I know what he's going to bring each and every start. Eovaldi is going to be your guy. And you're just going to hope to catch lightning in the bottle from your bullpen, and you're going to be able to score some runs. Like, you need Kike to stay hot. You need Martinez to stay hot. Now, that's some big question marks against the Houston Astros team that have proved time and time again that they're not a fluke. 5 consecutive ALCSs, despite their past, despite whatever you want to say about them. Numbers don't lie. This is the 5th consecutive time they're here. And the 2nd consecutive time since the whole cheating debacle, if you want to call it.
Listen, people are calling it the AL cheat S. Ha 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 ha. But with all that being said, you gave your prediction. The Red Sox in 5, I'm telling you. 5 games. Right. Tell me I'm wrong, because I want to see Alex Cora lose one game, more than one game in the playoffs. We have not seen that yet.
Cora's been great in the playoffs.
In the series.
I like the aggression that Cora shows. Like, he wasn't playing around in Game 4. Like, he wanted that series to end. Then
he
got
Chris Sale up in the ninth
exactly. Inning. He wasn't prepared to, like, he didn't want to go back to Tampa for Game 5. Screw that. He wanted to step on their throats now. Even with, we saw that in 18 during that postseason run too, the same kind of thing. So, like, he doesn't play around. Like, he's not like, oh, like, we got to make sure we're, like, obviously you want to be prepared for the next game if possible, but if and when, like, you worry about it, then you need to win now. Like, the Red Sox knew their opportunity was there. Game 5 wasn't a guarantee. They were in position to win in Game 4. You don't know what's going to happen in Game 5. You know, like, Eovaldi would have probably started in Game 5, but, like, what if he got hurt in the first inning? Like, then what? Like, you know what I mean? You can't just bank on, like, oh, we'll worry about it then. Like, you got to take advantage of your opportunities when they're there, because you're not always going to get those golden opportunities. In the Red Sox, when they had leads, they weren't necessarily able to hold them per se, but they were able to finish games, finish strong, grit, everything you want to show was awesome. So,
listen, on the flip side, though, if you're the Rays, I think you're getting a little too data happy, and I hope that the Red Sox don't turn into them. I think that Kevin Cash is doomed.
But Alex Cora isn't like that.
I know, but I'm only saying that because of Chaim Bloom.
Yeah,
because I think that Kevin Cash didn't. Maybe it wasn't his decision on Blake Snell, and I don't think that was his decision on Colin McHugh either. Like, why take him out after 16 pitchers?
That's just their philosophy.
Just their MO. Yeah,
that's just their MO, their philosophy. But Cora, I think the Rays front office has a large deal of what happens in that Tampa Bay Ray dugout. Like, I think Cash is directed by, like, a play call sheet, basically. But when it comes to Cora, how about that Christian Arroyo bunt that he laid down?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's, like, you know what I mean? You don't see that in baseball nowadays. Eduardo Rodriguez pitched into the 6th inning, which in most of the games this postseason, a starter doesn't go into the 6th. The only time I've really seen that is the Dodgers. Like, I saw Scherzer pitch 7 innings against the Giants. But, like, other than the Dodgers and a couple others here and there, the pitchers are out. The starting pitchers are out by the 4th, 5th inning. But Rodriguez went to the 6th, which was probably against the analytics per se. But that's just how it goes with Cora. He plays what his gut feels. But is he a believer in analytics? For sure. He's just not over the top with them. I think he has a good balance point. Like, he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. And I love that about Cora. And then quickly here, who do you like in game 5 tonight? Dodgers, Giants. Winner gets the Braves in the NLCS.
I like the Dodgers. I think that they're going to pitch Max Scherzer again. I just think that the Dodgers have too much talent, and I think the Giants are just going to come on bad circumstance. I don't know. It could go either way, to be honest with you, though.
I like the Dodgers too, but I don't love the pick. Like, I wouldn't bet it because the Giants have played really well this series. They were up 2-1. They've looked a lot better than I anticipated they would going into the series. And despite the Dodgers being this all-worldly team, I wouldn't be shocked if this was a Giants-Braves NLCS.
Maybe.
All right, Peter. So we'll have predictions for that next week because we could be talking some World Series soon.
World Series. Hell yeah. Listen. Please, Red Sox, make the World Series. I have not a huge, but like maybe a future, It's great.
I hope it works out. I really do. But I just think the talent, I still think the Red Sox are in a great position going into the future regardless here. They've overachieved by everything. And the future is bright here. And I really believe the Red Sox are in perfect, capable hands with Bloom and Cora. I think if you're a Red Sox fan, you should be excited by where this franchise is going.
Oh, for sure. They met expectation. They exceeded expectations. And now there's, as we said,
and they have so much room. They have so much room to grow. They have tons of room to grow. And Bloom is only getting started in the front office here. That farm system is only getting started. I think they have a long way to go in terms of where they want to be. But with Cora and Bloom here, be happy, Peter. Be happy. All right, Peter, let's get into our picks of the week here. I'm going to start off here. I'm going to go against Tom Brady here. What do you think? Not good for me. I go Eagles +7 over the Bucks. I like the Bucks to win outright, but I think there's a lot of question marks for the Bucks in this Thursday night game. Tom Brady has a thumb injury. He's going to play, but I think that's going to limit him on the road. Brady on Thursday night, he can struggle at times. Like we've seen that in prior history. Rob Gronkowski is out. Giovanni Bernard, he's been banged up. Levante David is out. The Bucs secondary has some question marks. I like how the Eagles played against the Panthers last week. So I think I like the Eagles to cover here +7. I do. I think the Bucs still win by a field goal, but
I like it whenever Brady's in prime time. Other than the Super Bowl, he plays them close. Whoever it is.
But look, he's injured. Arguably his best player defensively is injured. Still no Gronk. I think a lot of in a short week, the Eagles are riding high right now after that win against Carolina. I like the Eagles.
So my first pick is London. Hell yeah. Jags +3.5. They're going to get the first win. Do you know who is starting for the Dolphins? Do you know who's starting for the Dolphins?
Mr. Tua.
Oh, that's exactly all I need to know. Dolphins have become 1-5. They're going to lose to the Jags, I think, outright, and +3.5. I think you're getting a lot of value there. I think it should. And listen, the Jags are in their home stadium.
So what do you think of Tua?
You'll get Deshaun Watson, though, so you're fine.
Poor Matt. All right, second pick of the week. This one's my premium pick of the week. I have the Packers -4.5 over the Bears here. So it's in Chicago. So I do pause, but ultimately the Packers are playing really well here. They just came off of a pretty good win against the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields is banged up. I'm still not a believer in Matt Nagy. I can't, I'm just not buying in on Matt Nagy. I'm just not. And Aaron Rodgers has had the Bears number for his entire career. His record against the Bears, Peter, is 20-5.
That's embarrassing.
He's won his last 4 starts. In his last 7 of his he's won his last 9 of 10. He's 20-5 against the Bears in his career. So I like the Packers here -4.5. I think they win probably by double digits. That's my premium pick of the week.
I love that pick. I don't get if you're Justin Fields, he's still not running with the ball.
And he's still he's hurt.
I don't get it.
The Bears aren't winning this week.
All right, I have the Chargers +3. I don't get how they're a non-favorite. I know they're on the road this week versus the Ravens. It's a big, big test for the Chargers and the Ravens, but I think the Ravens played a 5-quarter Monday Night Football affair, and whenever the Ravens play, they play everybody close. And this is probably the only time this season you're gonna get the Chargers as an underdog this season. So
That's fair. My third pick of the week, over 55.5, Washington football team and Kansas City Chiefs. Seems like a big number when you think of it. It's really not. The Chiefs defense, like we talked about, is the worst in the NFL. Washington's defense is the most overrated in the NFL. Both have allowed so many points this year. And I like the Chiefs to win probably by a score of 35-23, which will hit the over. I expect Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to bounce back and have a statement game. But I think Washington's going to put up points. Heineke has put up points when he's given the opportunity. The results might not be there, but he'll put up the points, and Washington can't stop a lick. And Kansas City's defense is even worse. So I like the over.
I totally agree with that. That's why I have the Chiefs -7.
You like my picks this week. I don't know if that's good or bad.
No, I love all your picks.
Thanks.
No, that's why I have the Chiefs -7.5. I think it's a get-right game. It has to be a get-right game for the Chiefs because you cannot. If you lose again, I think you're done, to be honest with you. But I think that what's worse than the Chiefs defense is the Washington football team's defense. So,
boom. Another pick, Peter. I'm going Panthers +1 over the Minnesota Vikings. I know you probably hate this.
I almost picked that too.
Panthers bailed on you last week. Sam Darnold, he struggled the last 2 games, and I expect him to get back on track. He's playing at home, which should be notable because I still don't believe in the Minnesota Vikings, and I think Darnold can get back on track. He was playing great to begin the year. Darnold in weeks 1 through 3, he was 3-0. He threw 3 touchdown passes, 1 interception, a completion percentage of 68.22, and a quarterback rating of 99.0. Weeks 3 through 5, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, completion percentage of 61.84, and a quarterback rating of 65.6. So I expect Darnold to get back on track. They might even get McCaffrey back.
So that's
my pick.
Yep. So I have the Cowboys -4. Take your Patriot fanboy aside. What do the Patriots do better than the Cowboys? I don't think absolutely anything other than coach. Yeah, but that doesn't count. But I think
I will say it is. I don't want to interrupt you, but Diggs did not practice today. Did not practice on Wednesday.
Okay. But I think that number's way too short. It should be like Cowboys -8, 9. So
you think the Cowboys win by like 10 points?
Yeah, I think they're gonna destroy the Pats, unfortunately.
We'll see how that shakes out.
Prove me wrong, but
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the Patriots, they had a really lackluster performance against the Texans, so it doesn't shock me the least that they're underdogs here at Gillette against the Cowboys team that has arguably been the best in the league offensively. All right, my final and last pick of the week, over 52, Chargers Ravens. I'm not a believer in the Chargers defense. They allowed 42 points to the Cleveland Browns last week, and Baker Mayfield, who I don't believe is really right in terms of being healthy. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he has been awesome this year, like we talked about, putting up arguably better numbers that he has during his MVP year. I think you hit the over here pretty easily. I like this game. I think it's going to be close with a lot of points. Both defense are suspect, and both offenses are going to put up points at will, and both offenses aren't afraid to go for it on 4th down.
It's true. Well, that game is going to be electric. So my premium pick of the week is Bills -5.5. I think the Titans defense is really, really bad, and I don't think the Titans are healthy enough on offense yet. Julio Jones isn't going to play. A.J. Brown, I don't think is right. And Derrick Henry, last time they played the Bills, he only got like 55 yards last year. So I think the Bills are going to win by a touchdown or more.
All right, Peter. So I think the Tennessee Titans were a team you were high on. Now you're really low on them. The rise and fall of the Titans for you, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it's true.
All right, Peter, before we conclude the show, so next week we're going to have 2 episodes dropping.
CTW, get off 2 a week.
Episode number 1 of next week, NBA preview. NBA action starts up next Tuesday. The podcast will release next Tuesday morning, and we were going to have on 2 special guests, Brandon Carr and Noah Burnt of Roughing the Basket.
Roughing the Basket, yeah.
Yo, man, let's go. So we're gonna break down who we think are gonna make the playoffs, our award picks, our finals pick. We haven't talked much NBA action since probably football started the last 5 or 6 weeks, but we're eager to get back into it. A lot of news in the NBA circulating. Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, chief among them. So the NBA season is here. So I'm pretty pumped for it, Peter. So that'll be big. And then the second episode of the week next week will just be, as we did this week, more of like an NFL recap mixed in with some baseball, a couple of other things. So, Peter, you got any other final takeaways here?
It's the best time of the year. NBA starting, hockey started on Tuesday. MLB playoffs are in full effect, and obviously the NFL season is underway. So if you're a sports fan, it can't get better than this.
And college football, too.
Oh, yeah, that too.
All right. Thank you all for listening. And as Peter says,
stay hot. Go Jaguars.